Gabriel Mozart Abeyta, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, it's great to see you, buddy. I want to tell everybody listening that you can like and subscribe. It's youtube.com/film talk radio, and we have new shows every Saturday at 1 on KTRC. And today we're going to talk with Gabriel Mozart Abeyta. He's a musician and a writer, and a dear friend of mine. Gabe, you had an amazing upbringing, and maybe you can tell us a bit about growing up because you grew up a little bit in Europe. Is that right?
That's correct. So I'm from Taos Pueblo, and I grew up very traditional through ceremonies from my mom's side, who is Patricia Michaels. My dad is Yony Abeyta. I didn't get to know much about my Navajo side, but the minute I grew up very traditional, living in the mountains and on the Pueblo and hunting for my own food and drinking the river water. And then my dad got his master's degree at NYU to go to Venice, Italy. And he said, we're moving to Venice. And during that time, it was like, well, Google wasn't really that developed, so I didn't know what Venice, Italy was. But it was a dream. It was a dream I didn't know that could have came true because I learned so much about how to speak through my artistic vision through the stories that were gifted to me by my village.
That's amazing. And so in Venice, did you get on the water a lot? Was fishing and boating, that a big part of your life as a young man?
Yeah, so it was quite surreal because here, spending all that time in nature, uh, I spent a lot of my other time in the beaches of Lido, and a lot of it was through the amazing architect. I was just having this conversation with my girlfriend about how little Italian kids, like at the age of 7 to 8 to 9, they're just so independent, and they just go. They're all their little bosses. There's all kind of like very structured. And all my Venetian friends are exactly that way, and they all had boats. So the great experience was is my experience of Venice was being like a pirate with my friends. So we would go to all these different abandoned islands, and then we would just have fun. And that was really quite a creative adventure. Not only that, the La Biennale in Venice, Italy, really kind of inspired the path of how to tell stories in that sense, because I believe that all indigenous people are born storytellers, and I think Native Americans are really great storytellers. And I think I was seeing Bjork's music video "All Is Full of Love" by Chris Cunningham, and when I saw that music video, I looked and I said, "That's it. I want to be a video artist." And then so I had this little handy cam, and I just started videotaping and making stop motion videos all the time while I was in Venice and through the rest of my life.
And you work with your sister, or you have worked with your sister. Has that been a really rewarding relationship?
Yes, it's been really exciting. I know um, I've always been somebody who loves to teach and inspire others, and I know that my sister, when she was younger, she didn't know how to go about things. So I said, I have all these creative projects, and you're really talented. So why don't you come and join me on these adventures? And so it really helped build her portfolio for college, and it really kind of helped her in that direction. And we've been able to inspire each other, and I think emotionally too, because you know storytelling and filmmaking is such an emotional experience, especially during productions. And I've had to find myself a lot through my own art, and to have my sister supporting me during those times of many productions, it's been it's made me feel safe and very secure in an environment, because sometimes productions, there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of pressure, especially with projects that, it's nice to have somebody who's going to help you out and tell you that I got your back.
And do you feel like you and Margot, your sister, have become better friends throughout that process?
I think what made us became best friends was anime. um and it's funny because, like, you don't see much Native American content when we were both younger. and we didn't know how to see the representation. But luckily, a lot of anime culture is about, people coming together, and natives are raised in a village, so everybody's got to take care of each other, because if you're not taking care of each other in the village, then the village dies, and the stories dies and the ceremonies. We are the history. We are the people who tells the stories. And when you see anime, it's very similar, because they need to help each other out through really hard times. And so me and my sister went through a lot of anime conventions together, being dorky and geeky and supporting each other through like all of these really crazy stories and hobbies. And then that kind of, developed the trust to go in a creative direction.
Excellent. And when you did your short film, she was one of the people you tapped to work on it. And you also had Devery Jacobs and Morningstar Angeline, both whom I met with you. And they've both become, I think, Devery larger than life, and Morningstar's got a bunch of new projects about to come out.
Yeah, that's right. Devery, I saw what was it? Rhymes for Young Ghouls at the Jean Cocteau, and I was writing the film, The Beginnings of My Heart, and I thought she had one of the most strongest and beautiful performances I've seen, not by just indigenous, but by just actors in general. I mean, it doesn't matter like gender or race or whatever it is. She was phenomenal in that piece, and it really struck so hard. Especially that director did such a good job of that piece. And then when I tried to get in touch with her, but it was impossible. And then I was on Snapchat, and I saw Jeremiah Butsui having lunch with Devery. And then I said, "Oh, I've been trying to get a hold of Devery. Uh, can you get us together for a lunch?" He was just like, "Yeah, no problem." So I meet Devery at a coffee shop in Albuquerque, and I always love to tell this story. She's so nice in person. She's one of the nicest people. And but this time she's like, so what makes you think that I should be in your project? And then I just poured my heart out, and I just was honest, and she trusted me right then and there, and we created a friendship that really, um, we were there for each other in really, really tough times, and it really, really helped us through our own creative journeys as well, and especially Morningstar too. It was just a really magical moment, us kind of developing creativity together in this really beautiful safe space. And Morningstar has been one of my best friends in the whole entire world. She's family to me. She's someone who guides me in times that I don't know if I'm on the right path. And I think that's really amazing, because she's a great storyteller, and she's very powerful, and she's very independent. And the projects that she's that are coming for her are really, really exciting too, because there needs to be more with that as well. Because I saw her in Drunk Town's Finest in Sydney. That was my that everybody knows that I'm the biggest fan of Drunk Town's Finest. There's not a bigger fan of Drunk Town's Finest than me. I've bought people tickets to see that movie. I own this DVD signed copy of it, and I I I related with it very well.
Morningstar also has a really great sense of humor. She and I were judges for Native Cinema Showcase together one year, and we spent the entire time making jokes and laughing at each other's jokes.
Yes,
And
a day
I'm
without a day. There's some days, but I need to call her and hear her laugh, because it's medicine. And that's one thing I love about Native culture as well, is that how we've survived through a lot of hardships through humor, and we're some of the funniest people. And Morningstar is really, really funny.
I'm glad you also brought up friend of the show Jeremiah Bitsui. If you guys get the chance, Gary did a great interview with him. Gabriel, you were telling us about some of your friendships with these great native actresses, Devery Jacobs, Morningstar Angeline, and I really think it's cool how you guys are really part of a cadre that supports each other and reads each other's work and works on each other's projects. Um, has that, ability of you being a good friend and being able to reach out to different people on a personal level, has that behooved you and helped you get things off the ground or in motion?
That's a great thing you mentioned, because I've gotten to work with Morningstar on Yate Bini. I was the production designer, and I was also the gaffer and a little bit of a cameraman. I did a lot of things on that project, and uh, it felt really good to have that trust within Morningstar, because sometimes there's productions where people are hesitant, and when you have that trust, it allows the workflow to be a lot easier. And we just got done. I just got done color grading Morningstar's new film, Seeds, the short film, and I love that piece. People should please go check it out. It's a really great piece. I got to compose the music for it as well, and I've known Morningstar in a very, very personal. She's like a sister to me, and it's like it feels that since I know so much about her life and I've been so present in her life, composing the music for it really came, natural and very spiritual and very humble in that sense of knowing where those sounds were going to come. So, and I've also I feel very proud of the color grading job I did on that film. I think it looks really great, and the little kids in that film are. Morningstar did such a good job directing those kids. Those kids are great, and I think it just won an award for best child actor, and I was just like, well deserved.
I'm glad you brought up the music you're doing because we haven't really touched on that yet. You've since moved to Nashville to write songs and produce music, um, and the guitar is your dominant instrument or your main. The axe is your main.
Yeah. So we just got done recording our first album, which is the album artwork for right there. It's called Eager Within the Fire. We recorded that in Sol de Sans in Barcelona during the pandemic, and that took a really long time, but it was mixed and mastered from one of my favorite bands out there called Repeat Repeat, by Jared Corder. And it was mixed and mastered in Nashville, recorded here in Barcelona. And now we're on our second album, Sign Me Up for the Apocalypse. And that one is filled with crazy rock and roll. It is indigenous native rock and roll. And I'm really excited to share this because Kenny Riley has been such an amazing producer on this. He really pushed us. And it's funny because like my drummer is from Venezuela, my bass player is from Argentina, and then my guitar player is from the Dominican Republic. And so we have all these different kind of sounds coming out, and we're all really fast paced, and the music feels so alive. And I learned how to sing songs from ceremonies, and those subconsciously came out on this rock album. And there's vocal techniques that I've kind of blacked out on, and they just kind of the songs grew on their own. And it was really exciting because the way that Kenny told us to do this, I know I can't. He told me I have to sing one song a day, and I was just like, okay. And that's interesting because most of the time you're in the studio and you're like, all right, try to sing as many songs as you can. We only have this certain amount of hours, and you're like, all right. And so I've been used to that. And then Kenny's just like, no, one song a day. You're a different person every day. So it's like it was very intimidating because he would only let me sing like 3 times, and then I'd be done. So, and that would be it. He's like, all right, you're done. And I was just like, but wait, I want to do more. And he's just like, no. I was just like, you're gonna kill it. It's just like, don't overthink it. It's about energy, being yourself and present. That's what rock and roll music is about, is being alive and present. And he's right. And just trusting Kenny as a producer has allowed the album to be epic. And so I'm very excited to share it.
God, that's so great. So you're now in Barcelona. Is that where you put this band together?
Yeah. So it's our last It's my last 3 months here in Barcelona, and then I move back to New Mexico for a couple of months, and then we're moving to Nashville. And we are trying to pitch out to some record labels, and we're trying to pursue the music as a full-time gig. But the nice thing about it is that I learned a lot from my first album, what it's like to brand, what it's like to kind of push yourself out there, creative, and find an image, make something consistent. And so I'm still producing all my music videos. I just got awarded for the Leech music video, best music video in New York, and then best experimental music video in LA, indie, and then honorable mentioned in Paris. And that was really exciting for that music video. And then Across Seas is on FNX broadcast, which is really nice. You can catch that on there. And then it won a couple
Gabriel,
awards in this.
what's FNX? Is that the native station?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. The native station. And so that's been really exciting to be a part of that. And it's crazy because a lot of the things I've always wanted to do, I didn't expect I would do them for my own music. Music was the last thing I thought I would ever pursue, but it's the one thing that's gotten me sober. It's the one thing that's kept me more mentally healthy. And it's also, I think the other thing is that it's got me to work out a lot more, because it's like, you know, art is sexy and music should be sexy sometimes if you want it to be. And so is rock and roll. There's nothing wrong with feeling sexy while you do it. And so it's got me to work out and keep my health and be in better diets. And it's also gotten me to love myself a lot more, which I didn't find in other art forms that I tried to pursue.
Yeah, I congratulate you on the sobriety. Do you want to tell us more about that? Was that a struggle?
Yeah, it's crazy. I grew up seeing tons of alcoholism through the villages and through my people. And I always knew it was bad. I mean, my dad's side has a whole graveyard full of family members who have died from alcoholism. We've lost everyone through alcoholism. And it's been tough being raised by that. And I started drinking in the first place for ignorant reasons. I have in Taos Pueblo, you have a responsibility to do ceremonies. And if you don't, or if you're not doing those ceremonies, you should be doing something that's going to help the village further. I had that kind of mindset. I felt very fortunate to be able to have these travel the world and have education and do these things. And I felt strong enough, felt strong enough as a man to take on any kind of journey. And I said, I'm going to find the cure for alcoholism, as a dumb, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, thinking that he was going to find the cure for alcoholism. And I drank so much that it just made me an alcoholic. And that journey was what's crazy about it is that when you drink that much, it eats up everything inside of you, and you're wanting to drink more because you need to fulfill something that's missing, and that makes you really, really unhappy. And then you're no longer just drinking to have fun, you're drinking to keep something going that's not existing. And I looked around, and I thought my music was really good while I was wasted on stage. And then I realized, no, I should be an artist that can perform and still sing good without alcohol. And I need that challenge. And so I said I was going to get sober, and I did. And I haven't touched a drink since then. And it's been really easy. I mean, like, it's not been hard for me a single bit. And then the more as I get older, like, I drank all through my 20s. And now that I'm 30, it's like, let me just try it out. I can always go back to it if I want. Let me just try what it's like to be sober. I've never done that in a long time. And it was really easy for me to just say that. And it just, the more I did it, I was just like, man, I can wake up, I can do things, and I got more energy.
Gabriel, we got to hear a little bit about your latest band and your studio recordings, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about composing music and writing music and your process there. Um, what do you draw on? Do you write a riff or a whole song, or do you rack your brain thinking of new ideas? Where do you find inspiration? Anything like that?
So I think that the most exciting thing about writing songs and is that songs write themselves and stories will tell themselves when they're ready. And um, that's how it is for me. I'm a terrible guitarist, but that's okay. I don't know how to play chords. I don't know anything about music theory, but neither did music. Music didn't start from theory. Music didn't start from, learning those things. It came from feeling and it came from tradition. It came from ceremony. Um, what writing music is for me is experiencing life, allowing yourself to go through a lot of stuff, going through the many experiences I had through. I've allowed myself to love as many people as I can in life. And through that heartbreak of friendships ending or relationships ending has allowed me to grow and understand my flaws, other people's flaws, and how there's no right answer to a lot of things. And that's why it's nice to write songs that don't make statements. And that's really nice to be able to make art that doesn't make a statement, that it just allows you to feel and understand that things are going to be okay. And I think that's the magic about writing music, is that the more I get to experience and connect with others, the more the songs they'll come out on their own. And then the more I get to sing those songs, the more I get to connect with the audience. Because when you play live, you sing for the stage, yourself, the audience, and your band. And keeping that all at the same time is very important. And I learned that a lot from playing every single night here in Barcelona. I played every single night, not missing a single night for 2 years. And that really, really got me to connect a lot more with people in ways I never knew. And it's nice to be able to connect again with people without them being on their phone and make eye contact. And you're like, so what I've been feeling and what I've been saying for all these years, singing, you've been there too. That's just like, we're best friends at this moment. And that's what's really cool about music.
So in the USA, you probably often feel like a native musician or an indigenous musician. When you're in Barcelona, do you feel like an American musician?
That's an amazing question. That is such a good question. I ran away from the United States after Standing Rock happened. When Standing Rock happened, it became the most hard thing in my life to see our Mother Earth and our people get treated so disrespectfully. And I was sick and tired of living in America, being disrespected as an Indigenous Native American. It sucked. I just couldn't do it anymore. Went to Europe, and the nice thing about going to Europe, I didn't have to explain who I was anymore. I was just a person, and nobody cared. Barcelona is such an international city that nobody cares if American or Native American or anything else. Everyone is from everywhere else, and everybody's there to it's a very good transitional city. It's very affordable. There's very kind people. There's so much opportunity for you to find yourself here. And I did. I got to take a break from being native in that sense in America, the way that, when you're Native American, you constantly had to explain who you were, or had Americans explain how you were. And that was exhausting. And it got me to the point where I found myself, and I feel good enough that I don't have any hate anymore towards that. And so I started a TikTok trying to explain to people in the nicest, kindest way what Native culture is. And I ended up getting 100,000 followers and 1 million likes, and it ended up becoming a really huge thing. It becomes my full-time job. And I realized that the more I got to talk about my culture and share it with the world, that's who I am. I think I remember somebody saying, it's like, yeah, I don't want to start a TikTok and sell out my culture and like talk about that. You're not selling out your culture. It's not like anything that like that at all, because at the end of the day, you are your culture. Can't run away from that. There's nothing wrong. As I I said, I was just like, white Americans get to walk around being proud being white all day. I was just like, you're Native American. You should be walking around being proud Native all day. What's wrong with you? More as I get older, I realize I start to sound more like a scolding elder to some younger kids. But that's also really, really exciting to know that I'm becoming more of an elder and to be able to teach everyone in a kind way the ways of life, that we were told when we were younger, and not to forget those.
How can we follow you on TikTok?
So it is Mozart Gabriel official, and you can find me there on TikTok. I have decided to kind of really just post only on there because trying to do everything else is difficult. And what's really nice about TikTok is that I'm a storyteller, and that's what I'm really, really good at. And I get to tell tons of stories there.
Excellent. You'll have to put a clip of this on your TikTok. Um, God, that all that is so cool, Gabriel. Is there anything you miss about being in Santa Fe? I mean, God, it seems like forever since we were hanging around town.
I have to say that one thing I'm really grateful in Santa Fe that taught me so much was I really love Jean Cocteau. I think that's a great cinema. And I learned a lot during the time I was there, and when you were working there, and uh, the films that were coming out, and the people who like got the directors I got to meet and the actors I got to meet at the Jean Cocteau really taught me so much. It was the best education that I got during after Vancouver Film School. So the more I got to see films there, the more I became more confident as somebody who could pitch the work, or somebody who could network, or somebody who could really look at stories that were independent and develop, and see people really in the industry talk about the things that they love. I met Geth and Anthony there from Game of Thrones, and we worked on a project in Nashville, which is still in post production. It's been a tricky one, that film, because it's been so personal and in so many ways, and it's about a guy who's isolated himself in a house full of mirrors, and without reflection, he believes we cannot exist, and all his mirrors start to disappear, and he doesn't know what actually reflection is. And so during the quarantine, that movie changed because I was isolated in my own apartment. And then I got to understand the lead character that Geffen was playing. And I was just like, wow, now I got to change this whole movie. It's like when you make movies, you don't make a movie once, you make it like 8 times or 5 times. And it's just constantly always changing until you get it right. And so, but I think Jean Cocteau is something I really missed. I learned a lot from George. I think George R. Martin really taught me a bunch. He's so funny, and he's really sweet and humble, and he's very sure of himself, and he inspired me to go play Dungeons and Dragons, and my storytelling became even more better through Dungeons and Dragons. And I think anytime I'm back, I just love sitting there, and I just like eating that popcorn and seeing a movie or saying hi to George whenever I can. And then Lauderberger. I really miss Lauderberger.
Jean Cocteau is currently under a remodel. They're putting new seats in.
Oh yeah.
And I believe May is when their reopening is going to be. So I'm looking forward to the new purple seats.
Nice. Nice. I made a TikTok about the Jean Cocteau, and it got a lot of views. I think it got about 47,000 views
Wow.
on there. Yeah, it was really quite successful. Everybody really liked it. I was really excited.
Do you want to remind us how we can follow you on TikTok?
It's Mozart Gabriel official is where you can find me on TikTok.
Gabriel, God, it's been such a fun show so far. It must have been 4 or 5 years since I've seen you last, so it's been so much fun catching up. We talked about Morningstar Angeline, about Devery Jacobs, about a lot of the different projects you've worked on, the new band that you put together, and your forthcoming album. Maybe we can now get into just a little bit about how you found your style of music and your voice. What were some of your favorite bands and influences that touched you and made you think, "Hey, I could do that. I could write a song. I could be a musician." Or I wish I could do that, and I could never be so good as that. Are there artists that made you feel that way?
That's such a long, huge journey. That's really exciting to talk about. First inspiration, which is quite hilarious. As a teenager, my favorite singer was Enrique Iglesias. I probably knew every single Enrique Iglesias song ever. I just thought that, I just wanted girls to find me very attractive, and he was a very attractive dude, and he sang very attractive notes, which I thought were very beautiful notes. And then the more it became Snow Patrol and then Goo Goo Dolls and then Vanessa Carlton, those it's so people would probably be surprised about Vanessa Carlton, but she's such an amazing lyricist. And when she went really more independent, her music was her melodies are just very beautiful, and
So
her
when I
lyrics are
the,
very phenomenal.
the first time I heard Vanessa Carlton was in the movie White Chicks. And I remember
Yeah.
someone explaining to me that that wasn't a fake song that they made up for the
Yeah.
movie, but it was Vanessa Carlton.
Yeah. And she wrote that song, and she did an amazing job writing that song and how she sent that into the industry. And then that song blew up her career like huge. I met her in Nashville, which was really quite incredible. She was very, very like, like, I'm present, I'm here, do not mess with me. She was really tough, it was really cool. And I told her, I said, man, I respect your music so much. You taught me how to really love and be romantic. Um, and the same thing with, Goo Goo Dolls probably was my biggest influence with guitar playing. And then Snow Patrol was completely a huge influence.
Yeah, what's Snow
Kanye West.
Patrol?
Snow Patrol is the band that sings, if I lay here, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world? Um, that band really taught me a lot
How did you get into them?
emotionally. I listened to Final Straw, the album, and it really changed my life. And then the rest of them just kind of grew and grew and grew on me. And the amount of layering and simplicity that they had in their music, and lyrically, one of my favorite lyrics is your hills and valleys are mapped by my intrepid fingers. In a naked slumber, we'll dream all this again, which is quite beautiful. And that really helped. But it's funny because I feel a lot of that inspiration is in with Eager Within the Fire. And so crazy to think that you know in Kanye West, Late Registration was the album that inspired me to go and record my own music. I didn't start recording my own music until I listened to, if you ever get to listen to that album with headphones, it's really magical the way it's produced. It's just brings you into a whole world. That documentary is really quite great. The one that's on him, it really reminds me of like, and I got to meet Kanye in Chicago when I was out in school in Chicago, and I got to meet him in person. He was really nice. Bought me his album, Graduation, and he signed it. And then he bought the album for everybody else, and he signed it. He's really, really nice dude. And see the documentary on him kind of breaks my heart because it's a very different person now, and it's sad because there was so much I defended in his career that inspired me. And he's an emotional Gemini like me, so that made a lot of sense. But then the one thing that changed the whole course of that pop scene was my first fiance left me for another man. And I was very heartbroken, and I went to Chicago Riot Fest, and I've never listened to Joan Jett my whole life. I'm 24 years old, and I'm just walking around, and I'm like, just got done listening to, I think, Rancid, which was pretty awesome. And then I hear, living that too long, gotta get along, pretending that you own. So I was like, what is that sound? And I gravitate to the music, and I see it, and there she is. And she is just rocking out so hard. And it was the coolest show. It just, that music right there felt alive. Like there's only two bands that ever caught my attention. That was Haley Williams, Paramore, when she sang at Warped Tour, and that caught my attention. And then it was Joan Jett singing from a far away distance, and then that changed the course of everything. That
Do you,
got me into Social Distortion, Misfits, the rest
do you
of it.
know the band Mazzy Star?
I don't think so.
I'll have to send it to you. The lead singer, it kind of reminds me of what you're saying. The lead singer is very talented. I guess just last year, the guitarist died, but she's still doing some solo projects.
Yeah.
God, those are some great bands. I mean, when I first heard Jesus Walks by Kanye West, I thought that was an amazingly produced track. And I haven't really loved some of the stuff I've been introduced to since in the same way, but I am looking for another track like Jesus Walks coming from him.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of great things. Then the last bit of the music journey was, I after seeing Joan Jett, I wrote the album that's coming out soon, Sign Me Up for the Apocalypse. I wrote that when I was 24, and I kept it in the vault. And that was a very angry album. And that album, I was sick and tired of writing about love. This album has nothing to do with love, which is quite exciting. And it had to do with a lot of my favorite films. I wrote a song called Nazca Saves Metropolis, Nazca Valley of the Wind and Metropolis, and those two worlds combined it together. I wrote a song called Till Dawn, which is the movie From Dusk Till Dawn, because that is one of my favorite films. And then I wrote another song about Zombie Ties, which is about, From the Walking Dead. And I got to write songs about like my favorite films, and those things I didn't realize were going to develop 8 years later into a recording studio in Barcelona with my band. And they were the ones who were like, these songs rock, let's do something. I'm like, really? And then I was like, cool. And then that developed really, really well. So that was very exciting. But that's, if I have to give anybody advice, is that, make the art, hold it, and maybe it will want to be told when it's ready. Like I've always said, stories will tell themselves when they're ready. And no ideas are bad. Sometimes it's just, you got to execute them properly.
So you wrote it when you were 24 and you're like 30 now, is that right?
Going to be 32.
And in Barcelona over the past few years is where you really found your musical voice.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit more about that? I think we've touched on it a bit, but I think it's an exciting part of your journey.
I spent 3 years in Nashville before going to the music industry, before doing music, and I never played in the United States. I never played in Nashville. That's so crazy. And when I heard songs in Nashville, they were telling stories. And I realized when I heard people singing in those rooms, and I never sang a day my whole life, that people were singing from the soul, and I was singing completely wrong my whole life. I was just like, I'm singing very shallow. I'm not singing from here. And then the more I got to sing from here, and when I went on the stage here in Barcelona, I told myself I wasn't going to be heartbroken anymore about, people hurting me. I was going to go and do something about it. And something was calling me out. And I sang this song called Hold Back. And subconsciously, I didn't know that I was holding back on these things. And when I did, sparked a whole friendship with everybody, and everybody loved it. And when I went on the stage, I said, if I ever sing on stage, I want to sing as good as the people that I've listened to in Nashville sing. And I found my voice through honesty, vulnerability, and tradition. And those are the things that really, like, I don't, I let those songs find themselves, and I let that all go naturally. You can't really force things. You got to be alive while you do that stuff. And if I gotta say anything, is trying to be too in control will ruin something. If you're too obsessively nitpicky and in control of things, you won't allow things to be natural.
Gabe,
I think
Gabriel, we're
yeah.
gonna leave it right there.
Okay.
But Thanks so
I can always
much.
talk. Sorry.
No, thanks so much for really laying it on the line and pouring your heart out. This was such a fun show, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Absolutely.
This was Gabriel Mozart Abeyta, and we'll see you next week.